Most people think they understand this. Privacy, secrecy, space. They sound similar. They feel similar. And that's exactly why they cause so many problems. Because when you use these words, but you don't understand the difference, you start justifying things that slowly damage your relationship. Not in a big dramatic way, but in a quiet, confusing way, where nothing looks wrong, but something feels off. Let's make this very real, because this is where most relationships start to shift. Not with cheating, not with betrayal, but with confusion between what is okay and what is not. Let's start with privacy. Privacy is healthy. It is necessary. And without it, any relationship feels suffocating. Here's what privacy actually looks like. You don't share every single thought in your head. You don't report every small interaction. You have your own interests, your own mental peace, your own mental space, your own identity. And that's not a problem. That's balance. Because real relationships are not about losing yourself. It is about connecting as two individuals. Now here's the key point. Privacy does not remove your partner from your life. It just doesn't include them in everything. And that's okay. But here's where things start to go wrong. When privacy slowly turns into secrecy. And most people don't notice when that happens, or they justify it. Because to them, both the behaviors look almost the same, but the intention is completely different. Let's look at secrecy. Secrecy is not about having something of your own. It is about hiding something that affects the relationship. That's the difference. And here's a real solution. You are having a real conversation with someone. Let's see a real situation. You talk to someone. Not casual, meaningful, consistent, emotionally engaging, and you choose not to mention it. You hide it, save it under a different name. Not because you forgot, but because explaining it is uncomfortable, or complicated, or unnecessary. So you leave it out. And when you talk to your partner, you filter it. If your partner asks you about your day, you simplify it. You reduce it. You don't talk about it. Now, on the surface, nothing looks wrong, but something important is missing. Because your partner is no longer seeing your real life. They are seeing a version of it that you chose to show them, hiding a specific interaction, a specific part. And that's what secrecy does. It creates a gap between reality and what is shared. Now here's something even more subtle. Behavior changes. You hide conversations. You adjust your phone angles. You talk when your partner is away. You delay responses. You switch screens. You delete your call logs. This change is not dramatic, just slight. And you tell yourself it's nothing. My partner won't understand. They won't like it. They are so narrow-minded. They are so jealous. But here's the truth. If something needs to be managed, it usually means something needs to be examined. Because healthy things don't need to be hidden. Now let us examine the concept of space. Because this is where a lot of people get it completely wrong. Space is not distance. And it is definitely not escape. Space doesn't mean I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to talk about this. It does not mean I will live my life and you live yours. Don't ask me. I will not ask you. It does not mean we will talk only about what is necessary. This is not space, this is disconnection. It is separation. And over time, that destroys a relationship. Real space is different. It means I need a moment to calm down, think clearly, and come back better to discuss, to talk about it, to share, to ask, and to answer. It is temporary. It is intentional. And most importantly, it always comes back. Because space without return is avoidance. And avoidance creates distance. Or the distance has already been created. And you call it space. Here's what healthy space looks like. There is an issue. Something uncomfortable. Something emotional. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause. You step away. Not to escape the problem, not to avoid it, but to handle it better. And then you come back. You talk about it. You resolve it. That is space. Space is not silence, not disappearance, not avoidance, not emotional withdrawal. Because if space turns into not asking each other anything, not sharing your life, not spending time together, not connecting beyond basic responsibilities, then the relationship is no longer growing. Or maybe there is no relationship. It is just a functional coordination. And there's a big difference. A relationship is not meant to be two separate lives running in parallel. It is meant to be two lives that stay connected, that share, that engage, that show up for each other, even when it is uncomfortable. So here's the simplest way to understand it. Space is a pause and not an exit. It's a break in the moment and not a break in the connection. And if you are not coming back to the conversation, you are not taking space, you are avoiding it. And avoidance is one of the fastest ways to weaken trust. Because problems don't disappear when you avoid them. They just go silent. And when they go silent, they magnify. They become bigger. silent problems create loud distance. Also, talk about privacy. Privacy says, "This is mine," but it doesn't affect our relationship. You stay just as important to me, but I don't lose my individuality. Space says, "I need time, but I will come back to us." Us is important to me. We are important to me. Secrecy says, "This affects us, but I am keeping it from you. I am hiding it from you. I will not talk to you about it. You might not like it. You might stop me. And so I will not share." That is the difference. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here's most relationships struggle with. One person says, "I need space." The other thinks you are pulling away because you don't return. One person says, "It's private." The other says, "Since I am affected, you are hiding something." And maybe both are right, because there is no clarity. And without clarity, everything is open to interpretation. A different interpretation. Interpretation creates conflict. So, what should have been actually done? First, define boundaries clearly, not in your head, not in your reality. Out aloud, with each other. What is okay to keep private? What should be shared? What feels uncomfortable? What feels respectful? Because assumptions don't protect relationships. Clarity does. Second, look at the impact. You might not intend to hide anything, but if your behavior creates distance, the impact is still real. Relationships respond to impact. Watch for consistency. Privacy is consistent. Space is communicated. But secrecy is inconsistent. It appears only in certain situations. It is about certain people. And that inconsistency is what your partner feels, even if they cannot explain it. And here's the most important part: emotional accessibility. Privacy keeps you emotionally available. Space temporarily reduces it, but restores it. But privacy completely destroys it, removes it, while pretending everything is normal. And that is what makes secrecy so damaging. Because it creates confusion. Your partner feels difference, but cannot see the reason. And that uncertainty slowly breaks trust. Now here's a simple way to check yourself. Ask, if my partner fully knew this, would it change how they feel? If the answer is yes, that is not privacy. That is something that needs to be addressed. Another question: am I using space to recover or to avoid? Because those are not the same. And your answer determines the direction of your relationship. Let's be clear. You don't need to share everything that you think. You don't need to explain every detail. And you definitely don't need to give up your individuality. But you do need alignment. What you live and what you share should not be completely different realities. Because when they are, trust slowly disappears, gradually. And that's the pattern. Relationships don't break in one moment. They shift in small, unnoticed ways. Until one day, something feels different. And you don't know why. But now you do. It is not always what was done. It is what was hidden, what was avoided, what was labeled incorrectly. So don't just ask, I have done nothing wrong. Am I doing something wrong? What is wrong? Ask, am I being clear? Am I being consistent? Am I emotionally available? Because that is what actually protects a relationship. Not control, not rules, but clarity, truthfulness, honesty. And when these are present, privacy also feels safe. Space feels respectful, but secrecy has no existence. And that's the difference between a relationship that slowly weakens and the one that stays strong. Not because nothing goes wrong, but because nothing stays unclear for too long. It is not hidden, it is discussed.